It's Friday, the 1st of September 2023. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Jennifer Duke.
Good morning.
Jen, we've got 5 stories to get through in 5 minutes, so we better get going. Story number 1, Uber, Airtasker and other gig workers will get new protections and minimum pay rates under proposed changes that the government is describing as world-leading.
So right now, gig workers aren't considered employees, but the new Closing Loopholes Bill announced by the government would give the Fair Work Commission new powers to set minimum standards for gig economy workers who are considered employee-like. The commission would be able to consider base pay, superannuation, record keeping and insurances for gig workers and force companies to comply. But it won't be setting minimum standards for rostering arrangements and more broadly the terms of engagement to try and maintain flexibility. And gig workers who get deactivated off of a platform would have the right to ask the Fair Work Commission to step in if they think they've been treated unfairly.
So the gig economy is quite broad, right? So who would this actually apply to?
So it's easier to think about who it's not going to apply to. So it's not intended to apply to independent contractors such as tradies, but it's expected to affect rideshare and food delivery drivers, as well as some care workers, which means hundreds of thousands of people in Australia. But it is likely that there will be a big fight when the draft bill is put before Parliament next week. AI Group has criticised the proposals for being the antithesis of what is needed for a modern economy and has called it the wish list of the union movement. And the Business Council of Australia has hit out at the changes as radical, saying it adds confusion and extra costs and makes it harder to hire casuals.
Now, story number 2, speaking of big weeks, Jen, it's been a bit of a shocker for Qantas. The competition watchdog is now suing the airline over allegations the national carrier advertised tickets for flights that it had already cancelled.
Yeah, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission says that Qantas sold tickets online for 8,000 flights between May and July last year, the only catch being that these were advertised even after the flights were axed. The ACCC also says that Qantas didn't let customers with affected tickets know that 10,000 flights had been cancelled over this period. About 1 in 4 flights was cancelled over the 3 months. Now, this was still during COVID, but the ACCC says that Qantas made many of these cancellations for reasons that were very much within their control, including network optimization. And their case relates to the conduct after the flights had been cancelled and not the cancellations themselves.
Now, Qantas has had a really ordinary week, and I'm going to take up 10 seconds of our 5 minutes here to summarise what's happened. On Monday, I had outgoing Chief Executive Alan Joyce before a Senate committee on cost of living, talking about high airfares. It was also kind of defending Qantas and the government's involvement, really, in blocking Qatar Airways trying to introduce new flights into Australia that would have put downward pressure on airfares for consumers. And then this, with the ACCC, how is Qantas reacting to all of it?
Yeah, it's been a pretty rubbish week. So what they're doing is helping customers. So they're going to scrap the expiry date on flight refunds for $370 million worth of flights that were cancelled or messed around due to COVID border closures. All travel credits from COVID will be able to be cashed out as a refund at any point with no expiry date. And those that book with their Qantas COVID credits before the end of 2023 will be able to use a double frequent flyer point offer.
All right, on to story number 3. Property prices continued to rise over August. CoreLogic's Home Value Index shows prices increased 0.8% over the month.
Yeah, Michael, it's actually even faster growth than July. And while it's only 1 month's worth of data, it stopped a slowing trend in the capital cities. The Home Value Index is up 4.9% since hitting a low in February, which means the median property is now $34,000 more expensive. Brisbane property prices are up the most and followed by Sydney. All capitals except for Hobart were growing. Regional areas are a mixed bag at the moment, and houses are up by more than units nationally, with combined capital city house values up 6.3% since February and units up 4.9%. House prices did fall more, though, in the downturn than units did.
And, of course, we're now in spring, which means the selling season must be kicking off.
Yeah, there are 2,401 homes already scheduled for auctions across the capital city this weekend. It's shaping up to be the 3rd busiest weekend of the year, just behind the end of February and early April. And in Sydney, it'll be the 2nd time this year where auctions have exceeded 1,000, and Melbourne will be the busiest that they've had all year. So it's a huge weekend ahead.
Yeah, sure is. Story number 4, Australia Post has suffered its first major structural loss in 3 decades with a $200 million full-year loss. This is down from a $55 million profit last year.
It is the second full-year loss since 1989, which was when Australia Post became a self-funded government business enterprise. Parcel and services revenue is doing well at $7.3 billion, but hardly anyone is sending letters, and that's being felt in these results.
And what did the chief executive say about it, Paul Graham?
Yeah, he's saying that the losses are expected to continue racking up unless services are cut. AusPost wants the federal government to allow a reduction in the frequency of delivering letters and the closure of some post offices. Now, one statistic that's really interesting here is how many letters an average Australian household now gets. In 2008, it was 8.5 a week. Right now, it's 2.2. And in the next 5 years, it's expected to be closer to just one letter.
All right, last one. Story number 5. Very interesting story developing in the US, where there are reports that investigators are determining whether some of Tesla's company funds were being used to personally benefit Elon Musk.
So that's according to the Wall Street Journal, which is reporting that federal prosecutors are digging into a secret project within Tesla known as Project 42. This is reportedly to build a house made of glass in Austin, Texas. It seems that part of the issue is whether or not this house is actually for the personal use of Musk. The Journal previously reported that Tesla board members have been investigating the use of company resources in July, and subpoenas have now been issued to some current and ex-employees of the company.
Yeah, fascinating story, that one. There we go, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Jen.
Thanks so much, Michael.
It's Friday, the 1st of September 2023. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed Business News wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.